So for those of you who are watching right now, we're premiering this on Facebook, and later on we'll upload it into YouTube and BitChute. But we decided, because of Dr. Michelle LaMasa Dawson, because her schedule, she is so busy, we decided to pre-record this for you. And so we're going to be talking about healing wounds from our moms. So we're going to go through this the whole entire, I'll explain it once we go live, or not live, when some music gets started and we go through the podcast version, and I'll explain this some more. So fasten your seatbelts, because we're going to learn and grow together. Here we go.
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here. Right here, and when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for
you. This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening and viewing friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are tuning into the classroom, please know, if this is the first time that you're tuning in, I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to learn the truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, I'm excited because today we get to speak to someone who is very, 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 very busy. So we are thrilled to have Dr. Michelle LaMasa Dawson in the classroom today. As many of you have heard me say before, we're all students, we're all teachers. And so how wonderful it is when we learn from our parents, the people we love the most. But in the same way, we also learn what not to do, not just what to do, but what not to do. And sometimes it's hard for us to break those patterns. And this is a class dedicated to all mothers, whether you've given birth in your heart or you've given birth in your womb. We are all mothers. It doesn't matter how our connection is to that child or that person. We are able to transcend what people would say natural birth or whatever it is. So today I asked, recall healing expert, Dr. Michelle LaMasa Dawson, to let's explore some of those connections with our mothers. So this show is dedicated to all moms, and hopefully the daughters and the sons of these beautiful moms, and how we can heal in a way that we never thought was possible. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that my friend Michelle LaMasa Dawson is here to do just that. Welcome, Dr. Michelle, to the classroom.
Thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here with you again, Lily.
Yes, it's always fun to, dive into these conversations because many of us carry the pain. And some people carry the joy, but it's the pain that weighs us down. It's like there's lightness and joy, but that sadness and that anger and the lack of forgiveness, that's what weighs us down. So I thought, oh my gosh, let's have a conversation, not just being mothers as we are, but we are daughters and we are, women. And so I just thought, let's get started. Let's share a little bit about your background and recall healing and why this conversation, we need to take lots of notes.
Well, it's so wonderful to be talking about this, and we're also grandmas. And so it's
Great grandmama.
and so it's just so fun to be able to have the tools that I have learned to be able to heal so that my family, my children, my grandchildren are and can be much healthier than that what we had gotten in the beginning, and our moms always doing the best they can with the resources that they have. And many of us are very wounded, and so we parent out of our woundedness. And so it's fun to be here to be able to talk about the power that we have as moms and the power that we have as women to be able to heal our families.
Mhm.
And so my background, been around the block a few times.
But
And
in a good way.
in a good way. And well, there are those other times too, like, and those are all learning lessons
That's
too.
right.
So if we can use everything that we experienced as a learning opportunity, like your classroom, it just really makes for a huge difference to be able to transform and
Mhm.
to help. So my background is I have a degree in social work. It's fun because my youngest son is graduating from college next week. And so it's like, wow, 30 years ago, I graduated from college. And then I earned a master degree in religious studies, a master degree in psychology, and a PhD in mind body medicine. And I chose to do my dissertation on recall healing. And it's my mom was super traumatized, as a child. She was given up for adoption. She was in 11 different foster homes before she was 2 years old.
Mm.
um, the story was, I think it was 13, and then she recently found out that it was 11. But
Wow.
there was even trauma in that, and the back and forth and the abandonment, and from what I've experienced with my mom, and even in her physical body, how much she has suffered because of the trauma. And we know that when children are traumatized early in life, that it really sets them up for a big changes, challenges as they go forward. And so I'm the daughter of someone who was really traumatized, and that did spill over into our life, into our family life.
Mhm.
And plus, my mom was really young when she had me, so she was 20, when she had me. And so there's a lot of learning that has gone on. And my mom and I have said sometimes that we grew up together. And it's sort of the truth. Like, and when I was a young mom, I really did grow up a lot. But between my first son and my third son, oh wow, what a huge difference. Plus
Yeah.
11 years, and just a lot of wisdom that
Mhm.
came with that. So I have 3 boys. I have 2 daughter-in-laws, and I have 10 grandbabies.
Wow.
So it gives me a lot of experience to be able to share and have fun with.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting that, you talk about your mom and how she went through 13. She thought it was 11, but 13, it's even more. And you also said we parent from our wounds. I think that's very interesting that we become aware that it's our wounds that drive us,
Mhm.
as much, for some people that are fear driven, it's our wounds that drive us. And I remember, and I have 4 kids. 2 were born in my heart, 2 were born in my womb. And I have, gosh, I can't even remember how many grandchildren. We have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have a lot of grandchildren, and our oldest granddaughter gave birth to 2 actually at different times. So she has a boy and a little girl, Wyatt and Winona. And so she
I have a
has,
Wyatt also.
you have a Wyatt too?
I have a Wyatt grandbaby too. Yes.
Yeah, so we have beautiful, beautiful children. But I remember, as I started healing, realizing that some of the things that I learned as truth as child, or learned as from my mom and my dad, but today we're focusing on our mothers. What I know is that I inherited that fear, that unspoken fear that I ended up raising my kids with. And it wasn't until I became aware that every fear I ever had manifested itself. It wasn't until then that I was able to change that pattern and be a generational pattern shifter like you are, and go back to my children and say, I raised you in fear. I didn't think I did. I was just thought I was protecting you. And I apologize. I told them, please forgive me for this, because that's not what I wanted. I wanted to protect them. But I've realized that only God can protect our children. I can just raise them a certain way. But, to think about my mom grew up in the way she says it, very idealistic, a wonderful father, wonderful mother. She had a brother, an older brother, and a younger younger sister. And her father died when I was 3 years old. But, she grew up with this, love, and then she married my dad, who she calls Satan. So we actually canonized her for her 70th birthday, because we would say, anyone who could live with Satan for 50 years should be canonized. But it was all this victimization that I saw perpetrated in my home, that I didn't even realize it. So as a daughter, and I'm not blaming my mom, like you said, we do the best we can with what we have. But then it comes a time where we as daughters, we as the children of our mothers, start to say, they did the best they could with what they have. So let's discern what I should learn from, what I should let go of, and go from there. Is that with recall healing? How do we go back and say, this is from my mother, I don't want it. This is from my mother, I want it. Or maybe this is her stuff and I've inherited it, and I didn't even know I had it.
Well, and that's very true, because, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And that's the truth. And as much as we would like, when you're little, when I remember being a little girl, and I remember my mom saying when I was a little girl, that she didn't want to be like her mom. And then you grow up and you find that you do some of the exact same things. And
Yes.
it almost horrifies you, like, oh my gosh, I just said that, or I can't believe I did that. And then somewhere along the line, and for sure there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of hurt. And then as I started working on my timeline, and really just naming the places, claiming the pain that I had, and in these different situations, and then I really could move beyond it. And a couple of years ago, I've been doing this work for a while, but there really came this moment where I thought, gosh, I just really can appreciate and love my mom without an expectation that it's going to be different, or it's this, or it's that, but just to accept her
Mm-hmm.
for who she is, in what she has experienced, and the tremendous, and the bottom line is, there was a moment where I realized that most people that are parents, they really don't want to hurt their kids.
No.
Most people, and I won't say that with everyone, because there is some people, but even I learned something in one of my graduate classes where the professor said that even in abusive situations, that the abuser really wants contact and connection.
Hmm.
It's inappropriate, but that's really what they're after. And when they can't get it, they don't know how to speak it, they don't have the resources themselves, and so that's where abuse comes in. So once I started realizing and changing the perspective that, really my mom wanted what was best for me. So in her fears, in her overwhelm, in her push, in her driving, or the things that she would say, it was really because she loved me, and she wanted what was best for me for my brothers. And then when I started reflecting on my own parenting and the things that I did to my kids, and the woundedness where I parented out of as well, then it was like this whole new thing that happened. And there was a moment, because I just remembered so much devaluation, and because my mom devalued herself because she was given up for adoption. So that in itself starts you off with the feeling of, I'm not worthy. Nobody wants me.
Correct.
What is my purpose in life? So you really have to go to a place of, anybody who's here has been divinely purposed for being here.
That's right.
And until we all start to change that belief or that mindset, it will continue to show up. Oh, I'm not supposed to be here. And that's what I grew up with. My mom saying that and not really understanding her own divine purpose. And my mom's this beautiful person, and people love my mom, and she has this really sweet servant heart, and so it's just so fun to be able to see the transformation. And then with my kids, and hearing them say, Mom, you did this or you did that, and now being able to say, I'm so sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. It's like I was 20, okay, I had no idea what I was doing. I certainly wasn't ready for motherhood, and I just didn't know it, just like my mom didn't either.
We say that there's no playbook, but even if we look at the Bible, it could be misunderstood. I mean, even the Bible can be misinterpreted as, how to raise a child and so is there really anybody who thinks they're the perfect mom? Whoa, just wait till the kids grow up. Because take a back step, because you're going to be getting it as you get older. Yeah, it's funny because and we're not here to bash our mothers. We are here to love on our mothers, because like you said, our mothers have done the best they could. We all do the best we can. Unless you are absolutely evil, your choice is, and your dream and desire is that your child would be better than you. But that's an expectation. Better, what is better? That better gets us into so much trouble, right?
Absolutely. And it's so funny because as you were talking, I was thinking, look what our moms did for us. Our moms gave us enough to get us to where we are today. And some of that woundedness that they had carried, their secret suffering, created and planted a seed in us to help others to heal, because of the pain that they had gone through in their life, and the generational pattern that for sure shows up, and not even in our awareness. That is so true. So it's so fun to even think, like, your mom, my mom, everybody's mom has given them enough to get them to where they are. And
love that
is the gift. Our mothers gave us life. And my mom really was, the people were pushing her to have an abortion because she was outside of marriage. And they, are like, oh, honey, we could help you, with that. And she's like, no way. This is a gift. And she prayed that I be a girl, because a girl was going to save her life. She wasn't going to want to choose death by suicide. And it's like, really, in those moments, it really set me up to help other people.
What did you mean by death by suicide?
So the technical term, we don't say commit suicide, because it's like it's the person's fault. Well, a person that is in so much pain over their life, they really don't want to go on a lot of times, and so they some people do choose death by suicide. And so and that was my mom. Like, she really suffered for a long time, really 60 years of her life. She was very depressed.
Wow.
She didn't want to go on. She talked about, like that we would be better off without her. And, and recall healing actually gave her purpose. She went back to college.
Wow.
She began to see that she had some value, and so it's a reminder when I talk to her, sometimes she'll forget, and I'll just say, Mom, you got to remember, that you really are supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. Now, you had talked about earlier, and I wrote it down because I want people to understand the timeline. I don't have the timeline with me right now. I should have had it, but everybody has a timeline. Can you explain a little about the timeline that you use to kind of work with your mom?
Absolutely. So a person, it's all biological. And so uh, when we're born, from zero to the moment that we leave our home to become independent, including food, shelter, and clothing, that sets up like a blueprint. So for me, I was 20 years and 5 months when I got married and moved out and began my life. So every 20 years and 5 months till I'm 200 years old, it repeats over and over again, because your brain says, this is the perfect solution to keep you alive for the next 20 years and 5 months
Mm-hmm.
and the next 20 years and 5 months. Well, when there's hard, painful things that show up over and over and over again, this is an opportunity to bring it to the surface, look at it, see where else these things have happened in our life, go back to those places, give ourselves love, sometimes grow our little girl self up, change the perspective, give ourselves some resources, because it's timeless. And that's the beauty. And so when you grow up, when you allow yourself and you go back to those places that were super painful, it ends up clearing it. And not only are you clearing it for yourself, but you clear it for your entire family.
Mm.
So energetically, everyone gets to shift by the work that we do. It's fantastic. It's a
Yeah.
win-win situation.
It is a win-win, but here's the deal. I know that our power to heal, our ability to heal, can heal the generations before us and the generations after us. But what if the generation after us is resistant of the change? Is that something that could happen as well?
So the way from so what happens is, if you change energetically, it's an automatic thing, and the cellular makeup of the next generations, they changed. So some of the things that we experienced or our ancestors experienced, we don't have to experience them, especially when we actually resolve them. If it shows up again, and or there's some kind of repeating pattern, there's something that we haven't addressed, and that's an opportunity for them to dig in. Resistance, we look at resistance as this, like, this crazy thing, but the truth is resistance shows up all the time, because our brain has used these behaviors, these circumstances, to keep us alive.
Mhm.
So resistance is going to be used in order to not change that, because if we change it, biologically speaking, we could die.
Mhm.
And so we're not going to change these things easily, because it's been part of the pattern to keep us alive.
Mhm. Interesting. So once we become aware of these patterns, we can go back and identify them, work through them. And so, for those of you who are watching today, or maybe in the future, I want you to know that you can ask your questions, type in a Q and write your questions. And any questions to Michelle, I'll let her know. And Michelle already offered to answer. So we can still ask questions today, even though we're not technically live. We are all live, but not live on Facebook and YouTube. We're going to be uploaded, as we know. But I just want us to realize that yes, we do have this baggage, but it doesn't have to be baggage. It could be like beautiful opportunities for us to heal. And learn a new tool and have a new way. What would be a good way? Because, when I think about how I was raised, and I've said this before, I was raised in a family of right fighters, but my mom was a victim. My mom was a victim emotionally. She was a victim. And like she wasn't allowed to work. She wasn't allowed to do certain things. So that meant that she didn't have money. My dad, my dad, the typical Latin man at the time, I'm not saying all men are like that, but he would be the bread maker. My mom would be at home, and my mom had so many gifts and talents that she never explored. And as I see her today, still talking about my dad, because that was the one thing that I swore I learned not to do this, but my mom would always talk about my dad. My dad never talked to me about my mom, but my mom always talked to me about my dad. And I was angry with my dad for many years, because, you know, my dad did this to my mom. And it wasn't until I was about 19 years old and I had an issue with a guy that I was madly in love with. And she still wanted to, instead of tend to my needs, she wanted to talk about my dad. And all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute, this is my dad. She's trying to talk to me about her husband. So basically it was all about her husband, but I realized this is my dad. And for 19 years I felt that separation. But you know what? That became a teachable moment for me, because I never, ever, ever, ever would defy or say anything in front of the children, in front of my husband or behind his back. I would never do that to my children. I would never argue back, because I wanted to make sure that my children weren't affected by my relationship with my husband. And so that became a value that to this day I honor. And I had an ex-husband who abandoned the children. So we prayed for him. We prayed, and I wanted to make sure that the kids didn't harbor any resentment towards him, because I saw how it took me away from my dad. And so with your mom, did you feel that there were certain things that you were like, this is a deal breaker? I learned what not to do. And as a result, my mom was a great teacher of how not to talk to my children or her children about personal issues. Get a friend and talk about your personal issues with your friend. Leave your kids out of it.
Yeah. And I think it can even be exacerbated if you're not being raised by your natural father.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad was in my life, who he adopted me. He took my mom to the hospital, but my mom would do similar things when they would be struggling, or
Yes.
this, or don't tell your father.
Yeah.
And she even recognizes that as, unhealthy behavior. But today I very much, I was very clear. And especially when I went through 2 divorces, and in that, I didn't want, and my ex-husband even took my kids to Arizona. And I tried my best, even though I was very angry and upset about it. And the kids sort of knew how I felt, but I didn't talk badly about him.
Good.
And that triangulation that happens so many times between mom and the kids, I really didn't want that to happen. Where, when you triangulate, when you go to your kids, and I have a client that just was talking to me about his mom last week. And I said, your mom's making you her partner. You're not her partner. That's not your business. It's not. And so many times, and it's so often unconscious that moms do this, because you're driving the kids to school, or you're doing this, and you might, and somebody might say something like, oh, your dad, and without even thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Or, with girls oftentimes become the mom's confidant. Not a good thing.
I was my mom's confidant for everything.
Me too. And so it really became very clear boundaries, that mom is mom, and we can have fun together. And now, as as the kids are all grown adults, it's very different, and you can be more friends with them.
Yeah.
However, it's still not about complaining about their father, or talking putting them down, because
Even finances, even talking about finances to your kids. Keep going.
all the time. And the secrets part, like, don't tell your dad that I bought that. And it's like really those kinds of things that are just unhealthy. And people don't know that's a boundary that should not be crossed.
Yeah, it is. And we need to let our kids be kids. We need to let them be kids. And I know, listen, I am sure that if my kids watch this, they'd be rolling their eyes going, "Oh, well, who does she think she is?" Right?
Oh yeah, you really came so far now, Mom.
You think you're evolved. Come around me. I'll tell you you're not. But, and that's the thing, I always said, as I will know that I've been a successful parent when I take my final breath, and none of them have been in death row. I've said that before. And that is just so demeaning of my children. And it's not that. I will know that my children love me because they're there when I take my final breath, whether they're there physically or they're there in thought, they're there. So it's amazing how success shifts form as a parent. Like, I'll know I'm successful when all my kids go to college, go to Cornell, or go to an Ivy League school, and that's success for some people. But to me, that's not success. And I think of the times that my children struggled, or when I was struggling as a kid. Some of the things my parents didn't do for me, like my parents never solved my problems. I had to speak up for myself, even though I was very, very shy. But like I don't remember. I don't, and maybe I'm wrong to not, maybe it happened, but I don't remember my parents fighting my battles. I had to figure it out. And as a result, I learned some of the skills that I have today as a problem solver, but then as a mom, a really good problem solver. I solved my kids' problems because my parents didn't solve my problems, and I created a different problem. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because we are from the generation where children should be seen and not heard.
Mhm.
And so, talking and having conversation, that was not encouraged. And so with my kids, it was like a transformation. But something that came to me is that, when you see your kids going through certain things, it's an opportunity for us to do more work. So for instance, my son Zach he had listed about 10 or 15 things that had gone on for him. And it was like, oh, wait a minute. He's 24. And when I was 24, these things were going on. And it was like he had had an accident in the car. And I'm like, oh my gosh, an accident in the car. And, I had an accident when I was 24. And so I was able to say to him, oh my gosh, honey, I think this is part of my story, not yours. So you don't have to carry that for me. And you don't have to repeat it. And you have so many resources. You have all the answers inside of you. And it's like to encourage our kids.
Yes.
And then my youngest, like, the benefit was that I learned recall healing when he was 6 years old.
Wow.
5 and 6 years old. And so he really grew up with a lot of these tools. And I really was not so overbearing. Like with the older boys, I was on top of them. I wanted them
Fear, probably fear.
from the fear. And also I think that because sometimes we feel badly about ourselves, and so we want them to shine where we couldn't. And so that puts so much pressure on them to do and be. And I came to the understanding that we're really just guides for our kids. We don't really have a right to tell them, what line of business they're going to go into,
Mhm.
or what they're going to do with their life. That's God.
Mhm.
They're divine beings too. And so when we see these things that happen in our kids' lives, is really an invitation to check in. Well, if my kid is going through something really hard and important at this moment, is that related to them, or is that mine, or is that their dad's? Or, and then there's the opportunity, and it's all energy. So you can talk to their picture, and, or, if you see it right like that, then you do, you can talk to them like that. But it's just, it's really amazing when you do have tools and resources, to be healthier than their parents were for them, and then they were for us, and we were for our kids, and now our kids have the ability to be even healthier for their kids. And you said about success, and I look at success about, how are the kids happy? Are they doing what they love? And it really is a way to continue to grow and encourage. I see like the different things, and it's always like a playground for me to do my work.
Yeah. It's interesting because we can see in others who we are, and that you would say, he had an accident at 24. I had an accident at 24. You're looking for those things, before let's talk about looking at things. But before we do that, I just want to, I want to make sure that people know where to find us. If we're not online or on the air, like yesterday, we weren't able to go on Zoom. And that was just like, oh my gosh, what was going on? I don't know if it was intentional or not. I'm hoping that it was just a fluke, and we'll be able to do that again. But I want people to go to my friends, my viewing friends, my listening friend, go to whenyouneedafriend.com. And please, while you're there, become a subscriber, because, with the craziness of this world, we don't know how long we will have this platform. At least you'll know where to find me. So please subscribe. And also follow me and subscribe in my social media, including BitChute. I am just so excited about my podcast. All the podcasters, you guys are kicking it out there. It's really amazing how many people listen via podcast. So just remember, if you listen via podcast, there's always an extended teacher's pet corner, which we're going to have a little bit of a teacher's pet corner, but not very long today. Because again, I know you're taking time from your very busy schedule, and I'm going on my 5th hour today of doing the class. But what I want you to do is to please go and check it out. And while you're there, please check out my sponsors, like Keep Me Safe Organics, beauty products from head to toe that are all organic. I know you love them. And you get a 10% off when you enter Lily 10, first alternative care, which is telemedicine for medical, dermatology, and 3 hours. This is unlimited, but 3 hours a year of behavioral health counseling for $19.99. That's a special for the classroom for the entire household. And that's unlimited with the exception of the mental health counseling. The pharmacy in Merritt Island, giving you 20% off your first purchase when you mention my name. The Right Way Health and Wellness with Jennifer Gramuth, who everybody loves. And also my affiliate sponsors like Ground Therapy, Brain Tap, B3 bands. I'm getting these big old muscles because of the B3 bands, half the weight and half the time. I'm still building muscle, which I haven't built muscle in a long time. So I'm really excited. So check out my sponsors, check out my affiliate sponsors, and figure out ways you could support them the way they're supporting the classroom. And when you purchase from my website, it helps build the classroom as well. But there's another way. But wait, there's more. You can become an affiliate, enrolled student, and you can donate $1 or $1,000 a month, whatever you can donate, big or small. It helps out the classroom, but you can also help out by sharing with your time, your talent, and again, with your treasure. So figure out ways that you do this, and I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, I want you all to check out our friend Dr. Michelle's website. It's soultreetransformations.com. So go to Soul Tree Transformation. She's got an event for children. Can you imagine teaching your children recall healing She's doing a workshop on June 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Man, I wish I could have a do-over and I would enroll my kids in this and I would enroll myself in it as well. Share a little bit about that, Michelle.
Okay, but because it's not for children, but it's
Oh,
for children. So it's for us to do the work for our children and us as children. So you get to see like what kind of dynamics you came from and how that might have manifested in your daily life and
nice.
the things, and then ways of what has happened in our own life and how that has been transferred to our kids, and ways to work through it to help them without them even knowing, because kids, even if they're older, many times when mom talks, it's wah wah wah. So, so they shut you out. So you have so much potential to be able to heal the kids by just doing your own work, making observation, bringing awareness, understanding. And so we talk about birth order number and dynamics and different illnesses and learning behaviors, and so like disability, learning disabilities, and struggles that children have had and why. And
Mm.
so I remember when my youngest was in junior high, and I had a really good friend, and her son was struggling, and he would never do the work unless she was sitting right next to him. And she always had to push him. Come on, you could do it. You could do it. And so I said, well, what was it like when you gave birth to him? And she's like, oh, I was in the hospital for 2 months before. We didn't even get to do Lamaze classes. And then they took him C-section. And so anybody who has been given, it has had birth by C-section, or, needing help, for the child to be born, then that child will need help to do the things that they need to do in their life.
Wow.
And so just by really understanding that and speaking to their picture or while they sleep and saying, oh, and she didn't prepare for birth. Okay, so why would he prepare when it doesn't matter anyway?
Wow.
And so it's really about that, to make those kinds of connections, to understand that, to do a little bit of work. It's really very little, and you release your kids. So that child is now graduating from college, the same as my son. They started kindergarten together, and now they're graduating from college. So it's just fun, and it's amazing when you can put that kind of understanding on the beginning of life of what had happened. So
Wow.
that's going to be my workshop.
That's wonderful. Well, with the workshop that you're doing, I can see how any age parent, whether they're a new parent or a grandparent, how this would be a wonderful tool for them. And so is it, how many hours are you going to be doing for this?
So it's about 20 hours, and it's
Wow.
Thursday afternoon, it's a Friday all day, and a Saturday all day. So it's about 2.5 days. And so you get a little basic foundation, and then lots of specific information related to us as children, our children as children, our grandchildren, and all of those circumstances that have occurred. They matter. It's an imprint, and we carry these messages throughout our life.
Yeah, well, you are so trained in this. Like I said earlier, you are the expert in recall healing. You trained with the best. The founder, the originator, the creator of recall healing. So you've done a lot with him as well. But like I could say, oh my gosh, I would have never seen that connection of, she didn't prepare for birth. Well, why would he prepare for school? I would think, oh, that's just a lame excuse, but there is a connection.
Yes. It's like it drives us. It's the message, and it's like an invisible loyalty. We exist because that happened.
Mm.
And so it needs to continue to happen to show mama it's okay. Don't worry. Look. So when she really did the work, he started turning in his homework. He started working ahead. He started doing the things that he needed to do. It was really a simple fix. And so it works like that. I love it when it works quickly like that. And you can find those kinds of stories. Sometimes it's not quite so easy, but really it's there. And so Gilbert, he says, we are like Sherlock Holmes. We are looking for the puzzle pieces. So we're always looking. We are like Sherlock Holmes. It's ambiguous, ambiguous, ambiguous until, like right now, what happened? It was obvious. Like, of course.
Mhm.
So if people have a hard time taking tests, well, what was the birth like? Because that's the test. Okay. And so what was the lead up to that? And what happened during the pregnancy? And so we get so much information by just understanding those things.
I know. And you are so good at excavating all these truths. It's amazing. So I love my mom. I know that I remember my moment. I don't know if you can share, but I remember my moment of shifting with my mom because we were very, very, I'm a mama's girl. I'm a mama's girl. And, but there was a, nope, I'm not going to tolerate. Nope. Don't talk to me about daddy. Nope. So I had to get tough with my mom because I needed to protect my dad. And not that he asked me for protection, but I didn't want to taint my relationship with my dad anymore. And so those are some of the things that there was a little bit of resentment because my mom would think, well, what happened to my little girl? What happened to my girl, my friend? What happened to my friend type of thing? But she would never say that. There were other ways that there was control and manipulation. Like, fine, I won't talk to you anymore. Like, I don't want that to happen either. See, these are the things that we do as parents that maybe at the time they cause us friction in our heart because it's not that we don't want them to talk, we don't want to talk to them. But so I remember one time my mom my mom was at the house and I was ironing. And I was going through Bible study fellowship. I was, it was a 7-year program and I was learning about the Bible and God's word. And it was the first time in my life really that I read and studied the Bible. And I remember, because sometimes, I just couldn't help it. I knew my mom's triggers. And even though I didn't do it intentionally, I think deep down inside, it gave me satisfaction. I'm just being honest here because I've done the work and I've researched, I've looked within my heart. Why would I say this? But I knew I would get a reaction from my mom. I just didn't realize how impactful it would be. So my mom is diehard Catholic. The Virgin Mary was a virgin till the moment she died, and Jesus didn't have any brothers or sisters. And we were, and so we were learning about that in the Bible study. And my mom and I was ironing. I don't know why, I'm ironing. My mom is talking, and so I said to mommy, I said, "Hey, mommy, you say that Jesus didn't have any brothers because the Virgin Mary was untouchable until the moment she died, but it says in the Bible it talks about his brothers." Oh my gosh, my mother went inside out, and I could see how upset she was that I had said something that was against her belief. And I could see the veins on her neck and her forehead just like almost popping. And all of a sudden, that kind of I realized this is so important to her. It's not important to me. And I no longer at that point felt like I needed to push her buttons because I realized that I was creating friction and it just wasn't any good. And then I just was from that point on, I was able to listen to my mom and not feel like we had to see eye to eye, or that if she had an opinion that was different than mine, I didn't have to poke her in the eye either. And so that to me was a very healing moment. And I was able to say, oh, okay, even not even stepbrothers, not even stepbrothers, no brothers. Anyway, but has that ever happened to you before you even do your work, before you start doing the work, that did you realize that there was a friction, but you did not know how to heal that?
Well, I think that before I really started doing my work, my life was more about helping my mom. And so
Fixing.
it was always about what I could do to help my mom. And there was a moment where my mom had had a back surgery, and I was driving her to the west side, and I realized, wait a minute, my mom is not my priority. My family needs to be my priority. I am married. My I have a husband. My mom is not my spouse. And so there was a moment in that time where I started drawing boundaries,
Mhm.
and I went back to school, and it became a way for me to sort of step back and not be quite so at my mom, to help her all the time and be there with for every little thing. And so it really was this slow progression to lay boundaries, to speak my truth, to understand that my life was my life,
Mhm.
and it wasn't for me to only take care of my mom and to save her life, which
Mhm.
was a message that I had gotten. And so in that time, and recall healing really helped in that process. So it was, and then when I graduated from college, from grad school, I thought, oh no, what happens if I don't want to go to a family function? Before, I had the excuse of saying that I had a paper, or that I had to,
The gig is up.
I really had to start speaking my truth and saying, that doesn't work for me. I'm not going to be able to do that. And now I'm in Georgia, and mom's in California, so that does keep a big boundary between us in terms of how much I can be there. And I think it makes our relationship even healthier. And
Mhm.
so when I am there, I can just be totally there.
Yeah, yeah. So there's going to be a lot of people listening today, that in the future that may have issues with their moms. And so I think that one of the wonderful tools, you have wonderful tools for forgiveness and wonderful tools for healing. What are some of those tools that you could share with people who are saying, well, yeah, you were able to make peace with your parents, but my mom is, not this way, or my children won't make peace with me? What are some of the tools that you can just give to somebody to start the healing process?
Well, I just think just taking a step back and becoming the observer. And if you saw somebody else going through that, what might you say? You
Mhm.
know, how could you, walk in their shoes a little bit? And, the other piece is, did did that person, did mom, did they really intend to hurt me? Because most of the time it's not. It's like the control, the fear, oh my gosh, I'm losing them, and then the control happens. And so even though mom, did this, or I feel
It's
so
a little
angry,
butterfly hug for those of you who don't know the butterfly hug.
little butterfly hug, even though mom hurt me so deeply with this, I love and accept myself, and I forgive myself, because so often we'll take it for ourselves. And if you're ready, I forgive mom. Sometimes we need to yell and scream, go out in nature and yell and scream and kick and do whatever we need to do. And then work to a place where you see mom or dad wounded in their little girl self.
Mhm.
And that will help you to get to that place where you'll be ready to forgive. And so, even though that happened, I love and accept myself. I forgive myself. I forgive mom. She was always doing the best she could with the resources that she had. And I don't have to carry this in my body, and I don't have to die for this, because the bottom line is we have to ask ourselves if we're willing to die for, whatever that unforgiveness is all about.
That's wonderful. And there's so many people out there that only look at the negative of our parents, of our moms. And I certainly see the beauty. I see the unresolved issues that my mom um, has still in her life, that even with dementia, she's still now when my mom, I come in and my mom, I don't know if you know this, but Puerto Ricans point with their lips. My mom would go like pointing to my dad. My dad, he's there. Don't say anything. This is 68 years of marriage. 68 years of marriage. And
Oh,
my, but it's so cute. She's like, she sees me and well, but there's always conflict. And that's what she remembers. And I really truly believe that dementia and Alzheimer's is all these unresolved issues that we chose to forget, not forgive, but chose to forget. And the body is in alignment. You want to forget this, you're going to forget everything else. And it's sad. And this is just my hypothesis, by the way. It's not, but I have coached enough people and given enough talks and heard people's responses to know that people choose to not forgive and to forget and not want to remember it. And so as a result, I think that manifests in the body, and the body eventually honors it through poor eating habits, through alcoholism, drug addicts, and bad habits that cannot be fixed. But still, I have fun with my mom. I love spending time with her and finding the things that she loves. Like I get lost now in the things that my mom loves because, maybe when I was younger, I wasn't able to do it. And deep down inside, I think that if I can do this with my mom, maybe my children will do this for me too.
Mhm.
What
That's
about you? What are some of the loving things about your mom?
so my mom my uncle just passed away.
So sorry.
And thank you. And she's there, she's cleaning his house, and all the people that come in that have helped my uncle over the years, she wants to give them a little something. She wants to and that's just my mom, and she's Catholic also, and so she does the funeral services, and she and my dad would do retreat work, and they had really were trying to be the hands and feet of Jesus, and
Hmm.
always um are always in the service. They were in the kitchen when we'd have family parties. They would be in the kitchen cleaning, and they were always there to help others, to support others, and my mom, she enjoyed singing,
Hmm.
and I remember going, from my grandparents' home, singing all the way home, and so these are some really special things that I remember, and my mom, and then recently she came to Georgia to be in our new home,
Yeah.
and she just loved it, and she loved being here, and really just being able to connect with me, and so it was just this really beautiful gift of
Yeah.
time, and knowing, our moms aren't here forever, and so wasting time being in unforgiveness, sure, there's reasons for all of us, but mercy is so important, and so to have mercy for another, we will be met with mercy also.
Mhm. I love that. So I want to encourage all of you. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask if they're stuck in something. Sometimes it's really easy to look at what's wrong with our mothers. And I just want to encourage to just sit. And I love that image of the wounded child. You may have a hard time accepting your mother as they are today, but perhaps you can start by seeing them as a wounded child, knowing that they did the best they could, and if you can just start with the fact that she gave you life, I think that is a huge blessing right there. Any other tips before we go off, Michelle, Dr. Michelle?
I don't know. I don't have any other tips, but it's like, do your work and focus on yourself, and then compassion comes. I remember really understanding about judgment, and the more critical that we are, and that includes of all the other people, it's because we're so critical of ourselves. So
Mhm.
when we turn around and have compassion and love for ourselves, then we can have a lot more compassion for our moms, for
Mhm.
what they did for us, and the sacrifices that they each made, sleepless nights,
Mhm.
were sick, clothing us, doing all of these things, but also doing the best they could with little or no resources sometimes. And
Yeah.
So I'm sorry I froze there, but it was like,
No, you actually did come up with something, you did. And so I do want us to continue focusing on the beauty of our moms. And in return, maybe our children will find the beauty in us. So I really do appreciate you, Dr. Michelle, for everything that you do to make those connections so that we can say, I get it now. So thank you very much. Yes. And so please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you. Happy Mother's Day this weekend, everybody. And may you love, love, love your parents always. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Michelle LaMasa Dawson wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day
The opinions and
ever.
advice expressed on the
Yay.
Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
I think bottom line that I really want to point out here, because, I love my mom. I love my mom. I love my dad. I'm so grateful to them for all the gifts and lessons that they taught me. Some of the things of how not to be, and other ways and how to be. But I remember the first time when I was a little girl. I just want to tell you a cute little story. Maybe you can come up with a story too about your mom. But I remember when I was a little girl, my mom would always, when I would wake up, my mom would be putting on lipstick. And I've often said that I have a thing about lipstick. I have to, if you don't see me with lipstick, put a chalk line around me, because I'm dead. So I always have color on my lips. And when I would wake up, oh, they're already getting you. They know your time is up. They're gonna come. Hi, your mom. And she's like, look at that. We called her. Yeah. Wouldn't it be funny? A little freaky if my mom would call me right now. Well, first of all, okay. So I remember, and this is where the reason why I'm telling this story is that I want us all to remember a cute story about our moms, especially when you're feeling, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people that love their moms, but when I would wake up as a little girl, I would go to the bathroom and my mom was putting on lipstick, fully dressed. And I say, where are you going, mommy? And she'd say, to the kitchen, you want to come? I later wrote an article about to the kitchen, you want to come, because I didn't realize that to the kitchen, you want to come was so much lessons and gifts. I wrote an article when my mom turned 70. Remember, they were going to canonize her. And later, for a Mother's Day show, when I was on the radio, I had my mom come on, and that was just when my mom turned 80. She was on my show. I have to find it. I know it's in the archives. But I remember that wasn't a big deal. But I didn't realize her being fully dressed, her putting on her lipstick, going to the kitchen, taught me the importance of that being a mom is a full-time job. You'd never show up in your pajamas to work. You'd never show up. You'd have to plan your day to get dressed and out of the house. Well, I didn't realize that as I was writing my article, I didn't realize how much that exchange in the morning. And then one day, when I was a new mom and my little Brittany coming into my bedroom, I was fully dressed, putting on my lipstick. And my daughter said to me, Mommy, where are you going? And I said to her, to the kitchen. You want to come? So those are little stories that just, those are the things that we need to remember about our moms. Go from a place of gratitude instead of saying, I can't believe she didn't give me this. Well, that means that you learned how to provide for yourself, which is a great gift too. There's so many ways that we can look and change the perspective of the way that we viewed, the way our parents raised us, who are not perfect, perfectly flawed, just like I am, just like you are. So what about you? Can you recall a memory or a story that shows who your mom is?
So the one memory that's coming right now, like there's so many, but my mom, she would always, I was on the swim team and I did sports, and my mom and dad, they would always come, and they were there even into high school. They would come for tournaments and things like that. But there's one sweet little memory. Like I was in third grade and there was some kind of musical, and it was for like a patriotic thing, and so all the girls were going to wear certain things, and my mom crocheted hats for all of the girls class so that we could wear these hats while we sang our little songs and for the musical. And that really, my mom and dad became third order Salesians because of their commitment to the youth. And they really, my dad coached and my mom. And so that's what I remember, that we didn't have a lot of money, but we went camping, and my parents did retreats, and they taught us about what it was to be kind, loving human beings, and how to help and how to be there and just walk with people. And my mom, she really is that person who wants to walk with people, and she's there for people, and she has so much love in her heart, and she agonizes, oh, I'm not a good person. And I was
Mm.
like, Mom, and she's like, oh, I hope Jesus, I hope he's, I said, how? He delights in you, Mom. You pray, and you're constantly like, you're desiring everybody to go to heaven, so it's always in her conversations to be a good Christian woman. And she showed me, like, even if she'd say little things about my dad, she really loved my dad,
Mm.
loves my dad, and wants, and so all of my friends, all of our friends, they would they would be like, gosh, your mom and dad, and they're so loving, and so they really showed us what true commitment and love was all about, and
Mm.
walking through all the things that they walked through in their life.
That's beautiful. So I want to encourage all of you to remember. I know that our moms give us life. Our dads give us life too, because without our dads, we could not have, our life. But our moms typically are the nurturers, are the ones that, poke us in the eye when we don't want to be poked, because we as moms, we raise our children in fear too. It's that fear that we hand down from generation to generation, because we want to make sure that, our children are better off than we are. But the bottom line is, all our children need, right, is for us to believe in them, that there's, in a way, solving my own problems was a way of them saying, I believe in you, without having to say it,
Yeah.
instead of me saying, I can't believe they didn't protect me or coddle me or whatever it was. It's the same story. I mean, I can choose what story to say about my parents, but I choose to remember all the good that they've given. And then the stuff that I feel like I would never do myself, I can say thank you for that lesson, because of it, I put up with it, but my kids didn't have to. It's a blessing. It's just such a blessing.
For sure.
So go ahead. So were you going to say one more thing, or?
Well, I was just going to say that the one thought came to mind too is that I get compliments on my smile all the time. And my mom and dad, made it, but especially mom, because she saw me and she wanted people to love me and to see, my beauty. And so they got me braces. And so they even still say that today. Well, we put your car in your mouth. That was like, in fact, 2 weeks ago they said, we put your car was in your mouth. But, it's like that. The parents and moms, they always want the best for their kids, and so they do these things in order to help us. And yet sometimes it's not well received. Sometimes it doesn't come across as they intended. And yet the bottom line is because they loved us.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. Any words of advice? Because, our parents, our moms are still alive. And, there may be some people listening today that their parents are no longer, or their mother is no longer here, and maybe have some turmoil in their heart. Do you suggest doing the tool of the butterfly? What would you suggest for someone who's not?
I would suggest, because there's a thin line between the spirit world and our world. And I really truly believe that we can use imagery to bring our moms, bring our dads. If we need healing with our mom, bring your mom to your room. Have a talk. Close your eyes, see mom across from you, and then say everything that you needed to say at the time. And if they've already passed, they're very aware of the pain that they may have caused you. And so have them respond back to you from the level of their higher self, and heal that aspect, because it's never too late to heal those kinds of things. And so have mom respond from the level of her higher self, heal those little wounds, and reframe, change the perspective so that you can keep going. I'll share with this one um, little story. I had a client the other day tell me how her mom, she has a breast cancer, and she said how she had big drama with her mom a couple of years ago because uh, her mom wouldn't let her talk about her father. Her mom told her, if you talk about your father, I will disown you. And so it was a big drama for her. And so it's like, how these are the injustices that we can do to our children.
Mhm.
So we give our children life with another person.
Mhm.
That person is just as valuable. And so don't feel scared to lose your kids because they love the other parent.
Mhm.
Love them more because they love that you did at one point.
Mhm.
Okay, or there was some made an agreement to bring a child into the world, and that's being married in nature.
Mhm.
And so whatever the circumstances are, honor it, give it give it the love that it needs, because there's a life that was created because of
Amen, sister. I am so glad we had this conversation today. Many of us need to go back, and as I call it, visit the tomb.
that.
Visit the
Yeah,
tomb. Because if
exactly.
we don't go back to visit the tomb, we won't know that there's been a resurrection. And
Amen.
so, amen, amen. Had Mary not run to the tomb she wasn't there to find a resurrected Jesus, but she did go there and she discovered a new and improved message that she needed to share. So I want to encourage all of you. And again, you can find Dr. Michelle LaMasa Dawson at Soul Tree Transformations, and she's doing the workshop for children. There's a children's workshop that, I don't know, maybe I'll go to that one too. So June 3rd, 4th, and 5th, go to Soul Tree Transformations. Is that where they can register?
Yes,
Is it Zoom?
it will be a Zoom. Yes, exactly. And they can also call my assistant. And so 626-533-7019, Brianna. And that's the best way to register.
Wonderful, wonderful. Can you say that number again?
Sure. 626-533-7019, Brianna.
And I've got Brooke. We got our bees are so wonderful, right? Yes.
Amazing. I
Yes.
love.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
thank you so much for sharing your time. I know you're so busy, and being able to steal this time with you and to talk about our moms and honor our moms. Today was about honoring the gift of being a mom. And again, you do not have to give birth to someone to feel like a mom. You can, whether it's from the womb or the heart,
Mhm.
love conquers all.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Lily. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be with you. And I'm happy to take time to do this.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And so happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to you and all of you who are listening and watching and learning and growing with us. And have a wonderful weekend. See ya.